if you're getting a surveillance system put in your house, is you need to first ask if that person is licensed. Make sure they have a Texas Board of Private Investigators license and that they're properly insured and bonded. And you need to have some test case studies that you can look at. Do you have an example of their previous work? And if they have any references you can call, it's never a bad idea to do that. Now, if they've been referred to you by somebody you trust, that's a very good start. Secondly, you need to have the installer do a site survey and give you a good explanation of why and what type of equipment he's going to put there. Take it upon yourself to go and do the research on what he said to you. Take notes. If you have to record it, that's a good way to vet a company or a person before you let them into your house or your place of work.
Some of these companies will quote you a very crazy deal that is way too good to be true because it is too good to be true. Upsells are very common. There's so many different types of things that can happen during installation. For example, you change your mind on a specific camera. You may want something with a high resolution. You may want to add a monitor or even mount the TV in the house, anything that you may want to do. This is perfectly normal. This happens, very so often, but you want to be careful on some upsells because there's a lot of things that need to be mentioned to you up front, such as having a battery backup, surge protector, the correct router system for your camera, especially if you're going with an IP system. You want to be careful with that because a lot of times they will get you on a contract coming to your home. Once they have you there at their mercy, try to upsell you, upcharge you on things that they did not mention to you ahead of time. This will really inconvenience you and put you in a bind where you don't want to be. Houston Home Automation does not charge any hidden fees. Once we provide your proposal, that's the price you get and that's the price we collect. There is no additional hidden fees. We do not charge you for drywall repair, do not charge you for fire blocks, we do not charge you for having to relocate a certain stud or a joist in the attic, moving insulation out the way, air ducts, anything like that. If it needs to be done, it has to be done because our goal is to make sure that you are satisfied with this product you are purchasing from us.
Make sure that you get a service plan. If you don't have a service plan, they're going to pop you. You have a service plan that includes the warranty on there, then you know what where you stand when it comes to a replacement service standpoint and what your costs are going to be. It helps you keep the overhead down of owning a surveillance system. And a professional will have those things available to you. The guys that have been in business for 10 plus years, if they're a small, medium-sized company, you're going to get a lot better service out of a company like that. If they're a huge company like a Brinks or a ADT, you got to get in line behind 10,000 customers. You're going to get much better service. Buying locally is always a better choice that knows the community and you can count on to be there for you. Ask licensing, ask what the warranty is, what is your return policy, how long do I have if I'm not satisfied to get out of it completely. You're going to have instances where the tech that did the install just wasn't very good and couldn't get things working right, and it takes multiple calls, and by the time it's all said and done, you're frustrated. So those are things you need to find out in advance is, what is your warranty and, what kind of service plans do you guys offer. Some of the deceptive practices that competitors like to use is they'll go in on pure price. You'll see flyers out there for surveillance systems installed for less than $1,000. That is definitely a sign of subpar equipment. That you're not going to find equipment out there that costs less, if you're doing more than 4 cameras, that costs less than $1,000 at least, just for the equipment alone. There's not any decent professional grade equipment out there you can buy that costs anything close to that. That is definitely cheap, knockoff, probably pirated equipment. You don't want that in your house. You don't want that on your property. The cameras, you're going to find that they don't give you a warranty on it, and your cameras are going to start going out pretty quick. They're going to lose color or flat out stop working altogether, and they're not going to be able to support you when you go in to place a tech support phone call. That's one way that they have a tendency to go in. That's probably the primary thing you see in the market is for deceptive practices. Some people will sell leases, which is not necessarily deceptive, but you could end up paying 4 times what the equipment is worth. So just make sure that you do your homework. Anything that's free and it is said that it's going to be free needs to throw up a flag. They're going to say there's free equipment with some dollar sum, $1,000 install. Or we've got some of these alarm companies out there that say free equipment with your alarm, and they'll do 3 cameras, and then whenever you go to add the 4th camera to it, they charge you $399 for it. Or their monthly charge for the alarm system that they put in is now $89 a month for 36 months. If you do the math on that, you just pay $3,000 for a security system and a 4-camera system with low quality cameras. That's pretty common.
So some of these guys that you may possibly hire, you want to be careful, especially off of Craigslist, Home Depot's parking lots, or just anywhere off the street. Be careful with that, because chances are they're just spotting out your home, and it could possibly come back to you where they'll come to your home and actually rob your home. Children might be home, and you just want to be careful with that.
You don't want your camera system put in and then your installer having access to your camera system and being able to see it. There have been nightmare scenarios where customers have hired surveillance companies, security companies that were not licensed. They get the camera system installed. That installer keeps all their login information and is able to remotely look in, tell whenever they've left the house, and burglarize the home. We've had multiple situations. That's the reason that surveillance and security is licensed, for that reason. You don't want to end up being one of those guys that has gone on the cheap and got the guy that paints your house to do your surveillance system. Go with a professional security individual. That way you're protected. There's a lot of talk about image enhancing software and being able to go in retroactively after something's been recording and using this algorithm or whatever to enhance an image and clear up a face or read a license plate. Or if you want good images, record good images. Get high quality cameras, get high quality surveillance grade hard drives, understand and know what your requirements and what your needs are from the front end, build a system based on what you want, and that you'll never be disappointed in what you get as a result of those recordings. So always do the work up front. Don't rely on the possibility you can enhance an image later. It doesn't work that way. The difference between, let's say, a Best Buy package and a professional security system. A Best Buy package is going to give you'll probably get decent 1080p or 720. You won't know the difference whenever you're looking at it on a display, but you'll definitely know the difference when it comes to longevity, the capability, and the different functionality and settings on the cameras for professional versus Best Buy. Now, Best Buy is not going to have feature sets such as wide dynamic range, high dynamic range. You're not going to be able to set smart search features, facial recognition. You're not going to be able to have lost luggage. Where you would on a professional, you can establish boundaries, counterflow, head count, facial identification, things of that nature. Plus the typical over-the-counter Best Buy, they operate on batteries that if you get a high traffic area, won't do for a commercial space where there's going to be a lot of traffic, because those cameras are going to die and the batteries in the cameras are going to die in a very short period of time. And the camera image, you're going to start get what's called iris fatigue, where the image starts to burn into the camera, starts to burn into that imager on that camera, and then it shows up on the screen of that recording device. It's just a matter of time before that happens. Commercial grade security systems don't do that. They have pixel refresh and different capabilities like that. There's a world of difference between the two.
Anytime I get a call for a home surveillance system, there's one of two questions I typically get asked. First is what is it going to cost? Second is, will I be able to recognize faces? Well, to answer the first question is a little tough to do over the phone. First, you have to get out there and see the place, find out where the positioning of the cameras is possible. Based on that, you can determine what type of cameras you're going to use and the resolutions that are going to be required to get the sort of recognition and view that they want. Then you can start going through the feature set of the cameras. You can take a camera that's 2 megapixel in a small room, and which is 2 megapixel is 1080p, is what we all know is high def, in a small room, and you'll have no problem recognizing people's faces. But if it's on a 20-foot soffit of a 2-story house, you'll be able to tell if you know the person. You'll be able to recognize them, but you're not going to be able to do a whole lot with it outside of that. You need to start raising the resolution of the camera at that point, because what you get is what's called pixel density. Pixel density is whenever you have more pixels inside of a shot than normal. So whenever you record the situation, it's recorded at such high resolution, you can go back into the shot, zoom in, and it won't pixelate. If you're using a 2 megapixel camera, you zoom in, it's going to pixelate. You use a 4 megapixel, you can get a beautiful shot. Cameras go as high as 12 megapixel these days, and those cameras make for some beautiful evidentiary cases where you can go back and read license plates and see people's faces. The performance is based on the camera itself. The cheapest is not always the best.
You need to be very conscientious and do some due diligence on the guys that you choose to do your installs for. What you want to achieve is achievable based on what they spec out for you. Make sure that these guys are not going way overboard. I have an instance recently where a racket club had a company come out and they already had an existing system. IP video system was done by a specific manufacturer that I won't name. And they came out and it was 16 cameras. This very high-end racket club here in the city of Houston, and with a very exclusive clientele. So I'm assuming that the original guys that gave the quote were assuming that that was a factor. So they quoted them a 16 camera system with an NVR for $120,000, which that racket club was willing to pay. I came out after the fact with and took a look at did a site survey and the whole 9 yards. And based on what their requirements were, the analytics they wanted to achieve, were able to come in at a fraction of the cost, give them the same capabilities, and won the job. So one of the things you need to watch out for is guys that, there's a lot of guys out there that are going to swing for the fences, and make sure that you talk to guys you trust, go with referrals, and make sure that you know the capabilities of the product that you're buying. A lot of times you're not comparing apples to apples. You may not need all the feature sets that product brings. They come with the highest in line that they have. You needed to do some research to see if that is overkill or if it's going to meet your needs, and then be cost effective.
So research the brand of camera that they're going to put in. That's very important, because there are specific brands out there that are at the top tiers of the product offerings, and they're affordable. And there are also some stuff that you can go buy at Fry's or Sam's that are attractive from a cost standpoint, but they're not commercial grade, they're not warranted, they don't have local support, and it's just not advisable to put a do-it-yourself product in for what eventually could end up saving or helping you find someone that's broken into your house or your place of work. The thing about camera systems is they're very rarely proactive, they're almost always reactive. You're going back and looking at evidence. Whenever you go back to look at evidence and you find out that DVR wasn't set up correctly and it was not recording, the hard drive wasn't formatted, it wasn't just turned on to record. It may look like it's recording because you have a monitor on it and you can see all the cameras and you think, oh, it's recording. Until you go back to see if there's actual recorded video, that's a bad time to figure out that it didn't work and you paid somebody thousands of dollars to install this thing and get it up and running for you, and it doesn't. I've had people put cameras, cheap Wi-Fi cameras, which I never recommend anything that's Wi-Fi. You can do it in by case basis. If you have a very strong Wi-Fi setup, you can do 1 or 2 cameras in the system, but a rule of thumb, it tends to drag down the network and the cameras will go in and out, or it can just lock your system up. I've had situations where customers bought these Best Buy cameras and put them in their house in Costa Rica, and they worked fine while they were there. The thing is that the internet in Costa Rica is not all it's cracked up to be, so they were able to see their house for about a week, and then the camera went out, and they had to fly back down to Costa Rica and turn it back on, and then they came back, and then it went out again. Eventually, they finally hired an American crew, flew them down there, and put in a professional system, and it hasn't gone down on them since.
A good practice to look out for when hiring a security company is making sure they can provide you window stickers, yard signs, door stickers, in order to give anyone the impression or the idea that there is a security system placed in the home. You want to make sure that you can make people aware that there is some type of security system or security cameras watching your home. That way it helps deter any criminal or anyone coming over to your home to do repairs to cut and damage any security systems you may have.
I've had customers call me where they've had a bad experience. They were not properly trained on the DVR and could not retrieve video off of it. Recently had a guy come in whose next door neighbor had been telling the police that the consumer, that my customer, was threatening him and causing him all kinds of problems. He had video. He knew there was recorded video on his DVR. He just could not get it off, and whoever had installed it had not trained him how to do it. I had to bring his DVR to me, and I pulled down the image file or the video file and a player, which he negated to have, or was not told he needed to have, and he was in a panic because he was going to need to go to the police. This video showed his so-called neighbor that was being attacked aggressively standing in the street and being very aggressive with him and threatening him. And it was proof positive that this guy was telling a story, and he could get a restraining order based on the evidence.